Greetings all and welcome to AnalyView. Today we are looking at Heartattack and Vine, the 7th studio album by the uniquely iconic American musician Tom Waits. This album, like many of his others before, drew little commercial success, instead garnering attention from those who'd lived outside of the mainstream. It was his last to be released on Asylum, the label which released every album of his until that point. One distinction between this and previous albums of his is the altered formulaic structure of some songs, following this instinctual and anticipatory rhythm. Which helps them to be more easily understood even if the subject matters are unrelatable. This was also Tom's last album as a notorious heavy drinker, which, along with chain smoking, aided to make his voice severely rough, sounding like for breakfast he eats gravel and then washes it down with a shot of fire. If you listen to a track from his first album, then listen to something from Heartattack and Vine, it's almost unbelievable that it's the same person singing.
Falling in love just makes me blue. Groupie, stranger, lonely dreamer, toy puppy, and a problem. Laughing as they pile into almost Eldorado.
Songs from the album have been used in film and TV and covered by the likes of Bruce Springsteen, Screamin' Jay Hawkins, John Hammond, and even Phoebe Bridgers. And today we're going to explore what makes this album. The name Heartattack and Vine is Tom's name for the corner of Hollywood Boulevard and Vine Street. He explained, "I was in a bar one night on Hollywood Boulevard, near Vine Street, and this lady came in with a dead animal over her arm, looking like she'd obviously been sleeping outdoors. She walked up to the bartender and said, 'I'm gonna have a heart attack.' And he said, 'Yeah, right, you can have it outside.' I thought that was pretty chilly, so I renamed Hollywood Boulevard Heartattack." For the album cover and inner sleeve, the art directors have imitated a newspaper, the song titles headlines and the lyrics stories. They've even gone so far as purposely misprinting spelling and grammatical errors, as was even more common back then than it is now. The cherry on top of this design is the addition of coffee and wine stains, handwritten phone numbers, and the appearance of the paper having been torn. It opens with the song Heartattack and Vine, whose pace follows a slow burn rocky groove. The first sound you hear is the rhythm guitar, played by Tom. Drums and bass kick in to keep the tempo with an infectious foot-stomping, head-banging rhythm. When they reach the end of a few bars, where you would typically expect the vocals or another instrument to come in, all you hear is Tom make this low groan, as if he's mustering up the will in his drunkard lifestyle state to pull out the words, but all he manages is a throaty grumble. The bars are repeated, and then, after some more growling, Tom comes in like a cannonball with his immediately distinctive voice, so strong you clearly visualize his spittle slapping the microphone. He continues for another 2 verses before some unexpected saxophone slides in at the last line, opening up a short instrumental section, chugging along until it riffs its way into the next verse. Besides the sax breaking up the vocal parts, the whole song keeps the same structure, telling tales which are so specific in detail that only those who are in the song would really understand it completely. But the way he delivers every line, you can't help but feel as if you were a fly on the wall, witnessing it all unfold. Doctors and lawyers mingling with hobos and junkies, fresh young naive women in skin-tight clothing alongside people who are lined up to snort something which will likely kill them, getting so wasted you don't know who you are, while even the savvy are gobsmacked by the madness going on all around, just waiting for their ride to get the hell out of there.
Don't you know there ain't no devil, there's just God when he's drunk.
Don't you know there ain't no devil, there's just God when he's drunk. In a 1981 interview, Tom explained, "I was just sitting on the toilet and there was a spider web in the corner, and I lit a match and a cigarette, and I held the match up to the spider, and the spider started crawling up the web. So I got the match closer. I opened up a can of beer, drank the beer, tried to decide whether I should burn the spider off his web or let him go on his way. I figured there must be somebody like that up there. Has a couple cocktails every now and then, and there's trouble on Times Square." That's such a good quote. So the song's structure allows it to repeat verses over and over in any sequence possible, and it could seemingly go on forever, but instead it has a nice 15-second fade out until the end. The second song, In Shades, is a blues instrumental led by a duel between organ and electric guitar. Personally, this is my least favourite song on the album purely because it doesn't have what energizes me about Tom Waits' music: his deeply imaginative and transportive lyrics, and of course his one-of-a-kind voice. Though I find it to be anticlimactic, as it never really picks up besides the organ driving out a short and sweet solo. I think its importance lies in its setting of the scene. It's atmospheric, with a constant stream of captured background noise of chatter, tinkering of glasses, and applause. It's a clear image of a small jazz and blues club, hard enough to see under the scarce and dim lighting, without the addition of the clouds of smoke wherever you turn. Exactly the kind of place where this whole album would fit in perfectly. The kind of place where you begin a night which is later littered with the happenings depicted in Heartattack and Vine. So if the title track didn't already put you in a frame of mind where you're prepared for anything to happen, this little tune is a push into that underworld. The next track, Saving All My Love For You, is a slower ballad of melancholy and romantic hopelessness. The instruments are stripped back with only piano and bass, plus some percussion and a string section. The story places him in another town, which he has escaped to after a fight with his lover. It's a much quieter place than he is used to, and he is not fitting in well. It doesn't help that he's unwilling to adapt, but continues to act in ways which aren't accepted. He acknowledges that he is misbehaving, but doesn't have faith that he is going to change.
I know I'm irresponsible. I'll probably get arrested when I'm in my grave.
The song could be read as a love letter, ruthless Tom Waits style, expressing his upset and longing to rekindle with this woman. He's manic, his moods changing with every sentence, unaware of his contradictory nature. One second he's professing his love and loyalty to her, and then he's going to see a lady of the night.
I paid $15 for a prostitute with too much makeup and a broken shoe.
Fun fact, this prostitute with a broken shoe is the same one who also made an appearance in Tom's '78 song, $29.
Hot night with a broken shoe.
He urges his lover to ignore what is being said about him, and he swears that he's not really that bad of a guy. Then he says that he might lose it. He's really just all over the place.
I ain't half as bad as they make me out to be.
It portrays a specific time in the early hours when, for just a moment, everything is quiet, tranquility. The tolling of what sounds like church bells adds to the mood, and then the string section lathers it all with emotion. The streets are empty and everyone is still asleep, but Tom is out there to put an end to this. He's probably been kicked out of the last bar just trying to close up, so now he's stumbling around, making enough of a racket to set off the neighborhood dogs. Still, the blatant delinquency aside, it's a nice little song which slows the pace a little more, something which is needed before the next track comes out guns blazing. Downtown is the most upbeat danceable track on this album. It sounds like a night of pure amphetamine and booze. It kicks off with an organ run, followed by a snare flam. Immediately, it makes clear that this is going to be bitchin'. Tom has described the song as just a fast story, like a fast news update. With the organ pumping out these reckless, improvised licks, the guitar with lots of upstrokes giving it an almost funk edge, and the drum's lack of consistent hi-hat to keep time, lets in a looseness while still being tight. Each verse of the song has a different context, like chopping and changing scenes of a film. Within the first words, you have a well-established setting. Temple Street is a well-known street in Hong Kong, famous for its bustling night activity, cheap merchandise markets, welcoming streetwalkers, and overall degeneracy. It's sometimes referred to as Men's Street. Red Pants is a prostitute. This is a detail that sticks out the most in his eyes and therefore is the easiest way for him to label and identify her. Sugar Man is the dealer. They're in a $4 room drinking Chivas Regal, which is a luxury whiskey, contrasting with the cheapness all around them. A dead soldier is slang for an empty bottle, often of hard liquor like whiskey. They're drinking and taking whatever Sugarman has, and the sex worker is getting uncomfortable, reassured only by the untrustworthy word of the dealer, telling her that everything is alright. The use of powder blue, I think, is a double entendre. Not only is there this dark and down gloomy atmosphere, but there's also the physical powder in the room, courtesy of the Sugarman. You can almost see the table littered with empty bottles and white lines. After the chorus, we see the next scene.
Montclair to Evelyn doing the same riders dance, looking for someone to chop lumber in his pants.
Montclair de Havilland is a made-up name by Tom, which he actually used as a pseudonym to gain anonymity. He explains, "It's a name I came up with when I was on the road. I used to check into hotels and use my real name on the registration form. I had some unfortunate experiences because of this, so I decided to change my name, at least on the road, so I wouldn't have people I didn't want to associate with trying to get in touch with me. Looking for someone to chop the lumber in his pants." This is Tom's inner poet coming out, and I think we can all guess what it means. I've never before heard someone so eloquently express something so shallow. Mink is likely an outdated term for a woman, specifically a lady of the night, and ice could be something more metaphorical, like a physiological effect in the brain caused by the powder, which would definitely make it hard to think. Especially with so many people around, a kind of slight paranoia. Tom describes the people he encounters when downtown. A dude wearing Italian lipstick and holding hands with Jimmy Bond, who is an American jazz musician, which I suppose would make Frankie a male groupie. And there's chick Sally, who isn't to be messed with. Trank is a slang term for speed. The sweets she's hungry for are the same sweets you get from the Sugarman in the first verse. She can be feminine in bed, but out on the streets she's tough, a trait often learned in order to survive in a place so cutthroat as downtown. This is a quick contrast to the normalcy you'd otherwise find. Men acting feminine, women acting masculine. Again, emphasizing the narrative that downtown is different to other parts of the city. Then there's a sweeping organ solo before the next verse, romantic Tom Waits style. There are now more sexual innuendos and a longing for delinquency.
I wanna break your bottle, spill out all your charm. Come on, baby, we'll set off for the burglar alarm. Go ahead.
Unclear whether the companion is Red Pants or someone else he's picked up along the way. He wants them to misbehave with him, to give into temptation and to go wild. The song is bookended with the last verse being almost identical to the first. The one difference being that in the beginning, Red Pants wasn't all that comfortable and Sugarman was having to reassure her. Now, Red Pants is the one telling Sugarman that everything's alright. So perhaps it was in fact Red Pants in the last verse, after being turned on or experienced. Now she is game. After this verse, the instrumentation settles down a little as Tom ad-libs a range of moans and groans before the fade-out ends the song. Jersey Girl is a far slower song, a kind of sleepy love ballad. It was written for Kathleen Brennan, the woman who later that year would become his wife, and actually remains so to this day. It's simply a head-over-heels girl-boy love song. Tom purposely had to refrain from his natural lyrical style and actively concentrate on making the storyline basic. About censoring himself in this way, he said he didn't say anything too complex because I didn't think it fit in with the feel of the number. So lyrically, I tried to do it straight ahead, a guy walking down the street to see his girl. It has a well-arranged string section which complements the lovey-dovey, warm in winter atmosphere. I'm honestly not too crazy about the chorus, but it's what was needed to become one of those popular sing-alongs, which would explain why not long after it hit shelves, it was covered live by Bruce Springsteen, who later released a recording of it. This actually pleased Tom, and he has on many occasions expressed his liking of the cover and the exposure that he received as a result. He even once got up on stage to sing it with Bruce. The chorus then repeats until the end, and that's it. The next track, Till the Money Runs Out, drastically changes the mood back to what was felt in Downtown. It begins with a single sustained note played on the organ, and then it blasts forth with a pounding rhythm led by beating of the tom-toms. The bass chugs along in line, and a very subtle plucking of the electric guitar gives it a little extra melody. This goes on for about 20 seconds before a sudden halt. 4 seconds of silence can be a little confusing, and leaving the listener wondering if their device had an aneurysm of some kind and stopped working. Then, like a starting pistol, a snare shot paired with Tom's raspy croak forcibly brings focus back for the first verse. I like in Heartattack and Vine and Downtown, the lyrics are so personal and individual that they are indiscernibly strange to anyone but the characters within, yet they somehow manage to put the listener into the driver's seat, making you feel as if you are the protagonist in the story.
Strange parrots fall out from the sky. Splashing Baghdad on the hoods and the panther Martin's eyes. He's outside and candy Amarillo. Scarlet getting 27 stitches in his ear.
The strange beverage falling out of the sky is rain. It is strange only to someone accustomed to drinking alcohol in lieu of water. Baghdad on the Hudson is an old nickname for New York City. Although Panther Martin is the brand name of very popular American fishing lures, I'm going to assume that in this case it's the nickname of the person. I think it would be too much of a stretch to say that it's a metaphor for someone who is out fishing for a companion, as mentioned in Tom's song New Coat of Paint.
Fishing for a good time starts with throwing in your line.
So this person known as Panther Martin is outside in New York City, high and dressed in candy apple red. As the next line says, Scarlet gave him 27 stitches in his head, we can interpret the red to be blood. From head to toe, he's dressed in the red of his blood.
With a pint of green chartreuse, ain't nothing seems right. You bought a sunny paper on a Saturday night.
Chartreuse is a highly potent French liqueur, the only alcohol in the world with a natural green colour. And Tom says that it's only going to take a pint of this to turn your world upside down. To buy the sunny paper on Saturday night is a metaphor for the drunkenness from the pint, to the point that you have no sense of time, no longer knowing which day it even is.
Someone stole my watch. I sold a quart of blood and bought a half a pint of scotch.
Thunder is a metaphorical stimulus often used to represent a warning. In this situation, possibly the sound of a brawl or police sirens, or the pounding inside his own head from this drunk and high he's on. This expression of disorientation is emphasized by saying someone stole his watch. Someone or something is stealing his time and the ability to tell it. As for the line, I sold a quart of blood and bought a half a pint of scotch. The United States is one of a handful of countries in the world which pays donors for their blood. It's common for those of a lower socioeconomic status to become regular donors, just to make ends meet. It can be embarrassing for some, and it isn't that openly talked about. But Tom is not ashamed to admit that he's spending his donor money on booze. This line could also be seen as another metaphor. Increasing the alcohol content in his blood, you could say that he is selling his blood for the half a pint of scotch.
Someone tell those Chinamen on Telegraph Canyon Road, when you're on the bill with a spoon, there ain't no time to unload.
The line about Chinamen on Telegraph Canyon Road, which is actually a road in California, is likely a reference to the dealers of China White, as mentioned earlier in the record. A performer on stage can't get their act together when they're jacked up on the contents of the spoon.
Droopy, strange, and lonely, dreaming, toy puppy, and the problem. Laughing as they piled into almost Eldorado. Jesus whispered, "Eeny, meeny, miny, moe." They're too proud to duck their heads, that's why they bring it down so low. So pow, pow, baby, baby, pow, pow.
A varied mix of outcasts are getting into an Eldorado, and they have a death wish. Their dangerous driving has caught the attention of Jesus, who is guessing who will be the first of them to die. These are people who get their thrills in the face of doom. They know the risks, but take them anyway, because they don't want to live a way of life which to them isn't living. They are too proud to duck their heads. I love the way Tom delivers the line "eeny, meeny, miny, miny, moe" in a whisper, but still with so much of his rasp and guttural distortion. It frames Jesus in a more demonic light, as if he's enjoying being judge, jury, and executioner.
Morning man smack dab in the middle of July, swinging from the rafters in his brand new tie. He said, I can't go back to that hotel room, all they do is shout. But he said, baby, I'll stay with you till the money runs out. He said, bye-bye, baby, bye-bye.
In the 60s and 70s, the term sharp-dressed was common. Before the counterculture movement drowned it out for a while, some of the sharpest dresses around were the mods. Fashionable youths who spent all their time and money on designer clothes, scooters, and amphetamines, always paying close attention to the current trend. So the pointed man could be a sharp dresser, supported by the fact that he has a brand new tie. The middle of July in the USA is the hottest part of their summer, but perhaps Tom is talking about the heat, the police. The hotel room he doesn't want to go back to is prison. He's either freshly out or he's on the run. Either way, he's with a lady and he's living fast. To tell her that he'll stick around until the money runs out, and then immediately saying bye, would imply that the money is gone. Maybe he knows that his time is up and he has to turn himself in, whether that be to the police or to reality, the truth that he has nothing and has to commit himself to building everything up from scratch. The song repeats the first chorus again, then there's an instrumental verse, just as in the beginning, and it ends on a sudden snare shot, also like in the beginning, which is another well-executed bookending. On the Nickel changes things again, slowing it right down to a very somber mood. What is interesting is that Tom sings in a softer tone here than any other song on the album, and you can really hear the emotion, the plea and desperation in his voice, hoping his words will be heard and paid attention to. The Nickel is the name given to 5th Street in downtown Los Angeles, which is part of Skid Row, where there's a relatively large population of homeless, and this song is dedicated to them. When introducing it on David Letterman, Waits said, "This is a song called On the Nickel, bit of a holiday feeling to it. It's downtown Los Angeles on 5th Street, and all the hobos affectionately refer to it as the Nickel. So this is dedicated to all the little boys who've run away from home." On other occasions, Tom has introduced it calling it a hobo's lullaby and a wino's nursery rhyme, and you'll see why these are sharply accurate descriptions. Beginning with the soothing, warm and sweet sound of a string section combined with a piano, immediately it invokes a holiday theme, likely a snowy dark night, which for some means being in a nice warm home without a worry in the world. But Tom instead directs his compassion to those to whom the holidays are just another harsh winter they must face. It is also equally reminiscent of a nursery rhyme, which the first line shows.
Sticks and stones will break my bones, always will be true.
Right away, we have Tom paraphrasing the old adage of sticks and stones. This signifies he is at the defense of those who have been bullied or are down on their luck in general. He's protecting them, but he's not babying them.
When your mom was dead and gone, I'll sing this lullaby just for you.
He's being real in light of their circumstances. Children don't really have a concept of death, let alone even think about it. But with these people, he is not sugarcoating it. Tom is both speaking to the strong exterior, the mask one must put up to survive on the streets, the result of their immediate realities which force them to grow up, as well as to their unloved inner child. He is letting them know that he understands, which is more empathy than the thousands of daily passers-by will ever offer.
What becomes for the little boys who never comb their hair?
The line, "who never comb their hair," implies that these hobos were once children of an unruly nature, that they didn't always do what their parents or what the wider society dictates they should, what a typical good boy does. It supports the idea that these people need compassion and empathy, that they are misunderstood and shouldn't be castrated just for being different. Also, presenting the link between lost children and Face's vagrants manifests the realization that these aren't just hobos, these are people like you and I. They could be your brother or sister, your son or daughter. They have their own stories, which have led them to now be lined up around the block on the Nickel over there.
Line up all around the block the nickel over there.
The next line also makes this connection.
You better bring a bucket. There's a hole in the pail. If you don't get my letter, then you'll know that I'm in jail.
Like in the tale of Jack and Jill, one pastime of children exploring the world is drawing water from a well. It's innocence and its development. They are learning about space and physics, how they interact with inanimate objects to produce a desired effect. This is then contrasted with being cut off from that world, in jail. The two worlds are polar opposites, and it's easy to dismiss the latter without remembering that one came out of the other. He again highlights this in the next verse by saying that the little boys who never say their prayers are sleeping like a baby on the nickel over there.
Sleeping like a baby on the nickel over there.
It is sometimes said in jest that someone is well behaved when they are asleep. You can't do any wrong if you're doing nothing at all. Seeing someone's inner child is easier when they're sleeping peacefully. And to go one step further, when someone is dead. So, two quotes spring to mind here. Jim Morrison said, "Death makes angels of us all and gives us wings where we had shoulders, smooth as raven's claws." And John Lennon said, "Everybody loves you when you're 6 foot in the ground." I think Tom believes that people are more empathetic towards the homeless when they are sleeping, just as we all do, or when they are no longer here at all. We all sleep and we all die, and that allows the average man to draw at least one similarity between himself and the homeless, where there otherwise seems to be nothing in common. It's an open invitation to be reminded that we are all the same underneath all of this. After a short melodic instrumental led by the string section, the next verse sees Tom's voice sink into more of a growl. He is woefully wearing his heart on his sleeve, expressing himself poetically line after line.
If you chew tobacco, we shall pawn the star. Find out where the scarecrows sit, just like punchlines between the cars.
If you chew tobacco and wish upon a star. Okay, so tobacco chewing has long been associated with people in lower socioeconomic statuses, and wishing upon a star is what someone does when they are desperate for help, akin to how some people pray when finding themselves in dire straits. You'll find out where the scarecrows sit just like punchlines between the cars. A homeless person can resemble a scarecrow in that they can seem to be the shell of a person, empty inside, indicating that they have no feelings, or are numb to their feelings, which would make sense if they are being treated as punchlines, as jokes, being teased by passing motorists who may point and laugh as they fly by.
I know a place where a royal flush never beat a pair.
We all know that a royal flush always beats a pair. This is insinuating that Skid Row is a place where the impossible can happen. A pair doubles up to also mean a couple, two people, meaning that if you stick together here, you can beat the odds.
Even Thomas Jefferson's on the nickel over there.
And then to say that Thomas Jefferson is on the nickel reminds you that he is a human, as are all the bums out here. We are all equal, we just happen to look different.
I thought I heard a mockingbird. Roosevelt knows where.
So, depending on the culture or region, mockingbirds can hold different values and symbolism. They signify innocence and harmlessness, as well as adaptation and the ability to communicate regardless of language or background. These are the same traits Tom sees in the homeless. He believes that if you just listen to them, you can understand and learn from one another. Although, the mockingbird could have another layer of symbolism here in reference to the 1960 novel, To Kill a Mockingbird. which was one of the most popular novels in the United States in the 60s and 70s. The novel deals with themes of injustice, prejudice, and inequality, all of what the homeless also fall victim to. The Mockingbird's song is also seen as a symbol of hope. The mention of Roosevelt knowing where implies that he, like Jefferson, have access to the solution of homelessness. Although Roosevelt was a fairly highly regarded political figure, the dig is still being made at him and other politicians. What are you all doing about the homelessness? After another short interlude led by the strings, he goes on to say that the lost children who run away from home only become more and more disoriented as they grow up and discover the difficulties of fitting into the big wide world, and that their only salvation comes in the form of childhood escapism, comforting themselves by singing nursery rhymes and believing in mythical creatures like the Sandman, who will bless them with good sleep and sweet dreams. Man, that was a long sentence.
The world just keeps getting bigger once you get out on your own.
Innocent desperation also falls into the trap of alcoholism, which is probably the most common trait among the homeless in general.
I'll show you where the short dogs grow.
Now, Tom sounds like he's one of them. Picture two drunks lifting one another up with the false hope of wild promises and the same impossibilities which are said to be possible in Skid Row. Short dogs are small bottles of cheap wine, supposedly the smallest bottle of wine you can buy. Common among the poor because it's all they can afford to get their buzz. They are imagining the bottles growing taller, like a never-ending source of booze. It's a sad way to end the song as there's no real closure or continuation, but this is to be expected by Tom Waits, who is very much real and down to earth in his songwriting approach, never one to sugarcoat the black, white and grey of our world. And I think this last verse showcases beautifully the impressive vibrato he has.
On a nickel,
So as I'm sure it's known, the most common argument against Tom's music would be his voice. But I think that if people just took the time to pay attention properly, instead of being immediately transfixed by the sound of his voice, they would see such nuances which demonstrate his vocal ability. The penultimate track, Mr. Siegal, is a return to the style and pace of Heartattack and Vine. It has a firm and heavy walking beat, as a crunchy lead guitar gives it a sinister twist, while the honky-tonk piano licks keep it fun and vibrant. The lyrics are lustful and seedy. Waits describes clear as day a night in Vegas that could not be any muddier. From the first second, before the instruments have even begun, Tom is blurting out his story.
I spend all my money, Mexican whorehouse, baby, across the street from a Catholic church. And I wiped out my revolver, now put under my bag in his shade.
The unequivocal contrast between the Catholic Church and this Mexican whorehouse sets the scene. Debauchery in the face of purity and innocence. Judging by where he is, I dare say that this revolver is not a gun at all, but is a poetic euphemism for something else capable of shooting. You can picture him stumbling out of the front door, still adjusting his clothing, while on looks a neat little family going into Sunday morning mass.
I shot the morning in the back with my red wings on, told the sun he better go back down. Then I can find a book of matches, I'm going to burn this hotel down.
Man, I just love those first two verses. They encapsulate so much in so few words. Red Wings are an American designer work boot whose popularity spread out across Japan and Europe in the 1970s. To be wearing his Red Wings before dawn, he has likely hit the town straight from work, demonstrating his eagerness to have a ball. He's restless and irritable, and on a mission to have a good time, and nothing is stopping him from doing so. He even threatens the sun not to ruin his fun by bringing an end to his night. The pace of the song fits in well with the theme. It thumps along in beat to how I imagine his footsteps would be in this story. It's coming on dawn and he would be worn out from all the excesses of the evening, but doggedly pushes on to reap as much as possible before inevitably crashing.
You got to tell me, brave captain, why all the wicked so strong? How did the angels get to sleep when the devil leaves his porch light on?
This is the point of the night you sometimes reach when you become very introspective and start asking questions about life and how yours has turned out. The brave captain is likely God, or whatever higher power one submits to. He is essentially asking why there is injustice and inequality in the world. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do the wicked get special treatment? How are the good supposed to live and rest comfortably when reminded that the evil are always just at bay, forever a threat to their livelihood and well-being? He asks the captain because he is driving this ship, so surely he is in control and could stop this at any moment. So why hasn't he already? It's just one of those existential questions which one largely ignores or doesn't think about at all, but is exacerbated and pondered while the brain ruminates. He goes on to describe losing out big time on the Vegas Golden Nugget slot machines and the aftermath, having to hide out in the Baghdad room, referring to the Baghdad Inn, a hotel on Las Vegas Boulevard with cheap rooms. He paraphrases the song Blue Suede Shoes with the line, 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and go man go. I suppose this all emphasizes the triviality and meaninglessness of the night out. The goal is to maximize the fun and live in the here and now. The song goes on with themes of public drunkenness, sexual depravity, and this live fast, die young attitude.
Don't you know that ain't no broken bottle I picked up in my headlights on the other side of the Nevada line? Where we're to live hard, die young, have a good-looking corpse every time.
In other songs of Tom's, he has used small shining objects such as broken glass and rain to describe diamonds, or further, the metaphor of dramatic beauty. Tom being from California means that the other side of the Nevada line is Vegas. He romanticizes the lifestyle over there, saying that there's a rare beauty in living hard and dying young, and leaving a good-looking corpse behind. This exemplifies why he doesn't want the night to end. He makes reference to someone called Willard, which is likely the author Willard Motley, who wrote Live Fast, Die Young, and Have a Good-Looking Corpse.
Well, it's knocked out on a bottle of heat, driving dangerous curves across the dirty sheet.
The bottle of heat Willard has been drinking is what was known as canned heat, the slang term for methylated spirits, similar to the methanol dodgy alcohol substitute which has been recently killing young Australian tourists in Thailand. One brand, Sterno, labelled it as canned heat due to the metho being in a tin which after lighting would burn for long periods and was used as a fuel for heating chafing dishes in buffets in lieu of bain-maries. Those desperate for a buzz would drink Sterno for its alcohol content, but in high enough doses, it's not only harmful but lethal. So Willard is essentially living out his story here. The last original verse in the song before they begin to repeat sees Tom amongst the gamblers in the casino pit.
Well, you know the pit boss said I should keep moving. This is where you go when you die. So I shot a black beauty and I kissed her right between the eyes.
The pit boss, who is the overseer of the gambling tables, threatens that Tom ought to leave lest he wish to die. He takes a black beauty, which is a street name for amphetamine, and there's no saying what happens next. It doesn't specify who he is kissing between the eyes here, but one guess is that it's death itself. He is going headlong into his fate, knowing that his night isn't going to end pretty. The remainder of the song is a reprise of some verses in a new order, until it eventually comes to a fade out. Now the last track, Ruby's Arms. This is a bittersweet, melancholic ballad. It's a tale of someone who has hit rock bottom and is offering the little they have left to their once lover. Tom said about the writing of the song, "I was trying to visualize this guy getting up in the morning before dawn and leaving on the train with the clothesline outside. I just closed my eyes and saw this scene and wrote about it. It begins slowly with the low sound of horns harmonizing. If Eric Clapton was able to make his guitar cry in While My Guitar Gently Weeps, they have definitely accomplished the same for the brass section here. The melody is gentle and has a feeling of coming to the end of something. The horns are joined by strings and piano, which then make it feel warm, like a cozy Christmas time. And the way Tom sings is equally as wistful as the lyrics.
I will leave behind all of my clothes I wore when I was with you. All I need's my railroad boots and my leather jacket.
As with any great old American songs, railroads and trains are often a recurring theme to convey a sense of change, direction, and progression. While he cannot bear to keep his own clothing because they likely hold her scent, he needs his railroad boots so he can move on, and his leather jacket as he must now keep himself warm.
As I say goodbye to Ruby's arms, although my heart is breaking.
As you can see, this is a very cry in your glass kind of a song. There's not a lot to it, it's plain and surface level, but if you're in the throes of heartache, songs like these really grab your attention and pull on your heartstrings.
I will steal away out through your blinds, for soon you will be waking. Hurry past your chest of drawers and your broken wind chimes.
He is sneaking out of the room before Ruby awakens, and he takes one last look at her face, overwhelming him with sadness. The sun hasn't yet lit up the room, and though he can't see, he has spent enough time in her place to have the spatial awareness to navigate his way. He passes her pillowcase, the blinds, her chest of drawers, and broken wind chimes. These are things you typically wouldn't think twice about. However, he has intimate memories attached to each of these, and knowing he'll never see them again, he really soaks up their mere presence, as if to take as much of Ruby as he can before being gone.
I will feel my way down the darkened hall, out into the morning, almost at the freight yards. I've kept their fires burning.
Finally out, he joins the hobos in the street who struggle to keep their fires alight in the rain. Just like him, they are rapidly losing their sources of warmth. He thinks of how he'll never kiss Ruby's lips again, nor will he break her heart, and he looks for a train to hop. It's not only a goodbye to Ruby, but a goodbye to the person he was while with her, a goodbye to this town, and a goodbye to the album. The last sound you hear are the strings ringing out a beautiful note of C, which has always been a signifier of resolution, of a new beginning, closing one door and opening another. Tom has been through a hell of a lot in these 9 songs, and now he's coming out on the other side, just as the sun is seeing in a new day. Interestingly, this kind of goodbye was also prophetic in his personal life. In between the album being recorded and released, Tom married the love of his life, cleaned himself up, and later claimed that his wife saved his life. His contract with Asylum was done, and he moved on to a new life, not releasing another studio album for 3 years. Heartattack and Vine is an album for all seasons. It has enough elements that it fits into relatively different atmospheres. Hanging out in a bar playing pool, cuddled up with your lover on a cold night, a sunny day spent at the beach, walking home in the pouring rain at 3 AM, or even gathered with family at Christmas, which can be funny because the inexperienced always have intense reactions to his voice. And it's solid background music for pretty much any occasion. It can make you dance, make you think, and it can make you feel, sometimes all at once. It remains a staple of Tom's music and a good starting point for anyone interested in entering the world of his art. As Robert Plant once said, the whole idea of music from the beginning of time was for people to be happy. So if I don't enjoy the music, that's my loss. And if someone else does, more power to them.